Okay, let's have a moment of silence. Okay, let's have to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I was going to do it when I called the meeting to order. Yeah, I got you. All right. I call to order this Community Development Committee meeting for July 8th, 2028. We have Commissioner Nick Skoll, myself, Commissioner Jamon Mullen, Township Manager Pat Sazio. We have James Hirsch representing Gilmore Associates, Brianna Bryant, our township solicitor, and we also have Paul Patel, our Director of Code Enforcement, and David Alcier, Director of Public Works. Do we have any announcements?
We do not.
Okay. Do we have any presentations?
We do not.
All right, let's move to the approval of minutes for June 10th. Any questions or any amendments or changes to the minutes from last month?
No, I haven't read them twice. I'm sure they're great.
All right, so you want to approve it to move it?
Move them forward.
All right, we're good. All right, so the next thing we'll move to is land development. So we'll talk about the minor subdivision application on 2630 Horsham Road. A little background, there is 2 lots and they're trying to combine the 2 lots into one.
Yes, that's correct.
You want to give a little bit more information?
That's correct, Commissioner. There's an existing single-family dwelling and some accessory building and some accessory structures on the property. And the applicants are just looking to combine both lots to make one property. There's no development proposed. The applicant's engineer is here this evening and will be speaking further on the application. You're up.
Good evening, Nick Rose from ProTract Engineering. Yes, as Paul said, this is at 2630 Horsham Road. And really the intent is just to take 2 properties that have historically been kept separate as 2 properties and make them into one so that the property can be used as a whole. One of them is about 9,000 square feet. One of them is about 4,500 square feet. So they're currently used as one unit and they would like to just consolidate them so that officially they are one unit. As Paul noted, there's no development proposed or anything. We do have a review letter from Jim's office. We have no issue with those comments. There are a couple waivers that we had sent in a waiver request letter about, which I could go over with you at whatever time you would like me to. Trying to think if there's anything else noteworthy about this. It really is just a very simple application to try to make 2 parcels into one.
I just had a question. In the future, if they wanted to odd-divide them, divide them again to build another property, would that be possible? Build another building?
I'd have to look and see. It wouldn't be able to be done the way it is now because the minimum lot area is 6,000 square feet and the one property is actually less than that. And I think if you move the line over, it would get too close to the existing dwelling. So the way the dwelling is situated now, I think the answer is no.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
I should say, by the way, I do have Rodney and Lee Bohr with
Sure.
me, the owners of the property, if there are any questions for them.
I have none.
Are there any commissioner comments?
I support moving this forward. I do want to note that I'm not sure what the vote will be, but generally we do not waive the sidewalk requirement. And what was the other thing? Oh, Pat, I wanted to ask about, I saw there's some encroachments on the park.
Yeah, so this property is one of them that we've been going with.
Oh, it is one that
It
was,
is,
okay,
yes.
great.
If I could, yeah, there were two waivers. One was just to ask for a joint preliminary final approval, and the other was sidewalk. There's existing sidewalk most of the way down their frontage, and then there's actually, so it goes most of the way down, and there's a gap, and then there's a gap where Carton Street is. And then it picks up again very shortly, but then there's no more. So it just seems like for a consolidation, I know we've been here many times, and this township is very interested in sidewalks. In this particular case, since it's just a consolidation, and they're not making money by subdividing it or anything. We think it's a little over and above what is necessary, but we'll do whatever the township deems fit.
Well, as one of my previous commissioners would say, we're always interested in sidewalks, and even if they're not connected, they may be connected someday. So I'd like to make that a stipulation.
Me as well.
Okay, we would propose sidewalk for that piece that it currently does not have any then, and we would withdraw that waiver request.
And then what was the other waiver?
The other one
request?
was just to treat this as a joint preliminary final approval, which I think is standard for 2 lots.
That sounds good.
So we want to move this to our
Move it
August
forward.
5th? All right, we'll move this to our August 5th meeting
I'm happy we can help them out.
for full board.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That'll be the August 5th meeting.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item under land development, the waiver of land development for the property located at 2300 Wyandotte Road. Do we have a representative?
Sorry, just give me a second here. Oops.
Beautiful.
Good evening. My name is Chad Brensinger from Charles E. Shoemaker Incorporated, Engineers and Surveyors. Thanks for having us here tonight. I'm here with Chris Lear, owner of Armco Metals. He owns this property located at 2300 Wyandotte Road, zoned S, small industrial. Currently, the site is a vacant lot that was previously developed. There's an existing building pad that's partially demolished. And currently, he's operating some of his scrap metal business out of that, storing some materials and structures, or, storage containers and stuff. He's had the property since 2015. Prior to his ownership, the existing building burned down, and he was left with, he bought the vacant lot with the remnants of the building. Earlier this year, we were in front of the zoning hearing board here for relief for outdoor storage of scrap metals, a special exception to use the existing non-conforming lot, and to provide 77% impervious coverage where 70 is permitted. Right now, the lot is 88% impervious, so we are providing a reduction of impervious. A special exception for a parking reduction to provide 17 spaces where 27 is required. We met with the township staff several times prior to the zoning hearing board, met all their requests, and at that time, we discussed the possibility of proceeding as a waiver for land development, just because he's basically looking to build the building on a smaller building area of what was there before, and that was, agreeable. Mr. Patel was agreeable to that possibility. So we're asking for that waiver of land development tonight. Jim and Gilmore issued a review letter last week. There's 6 or 7 minor comments that they're all will comply. We still need to provide a couple, details for the fence, wall, some lighting, lighting details that we'll obviously address prior to approval of any grading or permits. But I think that's pretty much it. We're proposing a reduction of impervious area and stormwater management when there's no stormwater management on site now. So everything that we're doing is better than what's there now. That's pretty straightforward. It's going to look a whole lot better and similar to the other businesses on the street.
What about the pervious area? You're asking for less?
Yeah, we have, there's about 88% existing now, and we're going to reduce that to 77%, but 77% is still over the allowable. So it's a reduction, but we still got the relief
Right.
to provide, more.
Yeah, this is all going through zoning, is that correct?
Right. And generally speaking, he's going to pave over what's already there. So we're going to reduce, pull back the, vegetate the perimeter a little bit, and then, pave the existing gravel, broken blacktop. He's actually probably going to use, you're going to do concrete for the whole thing? He's going to concrete the whole thing instead of blacktop too. It's a little more robust.
There you go. Yeah, so we generally don't like gravel. I've learned over the years because it gets into the stormwater system eventually, and so I'm glad it's going to be paved. Otherwise, I'm perfect agreement.
Yes. I'm in agreement as well, meeting those conditions of getting the security lighting that was mentioned. Yeah. Any commissioner comments? Any public comments? Okay. So we're good to move this ahead to
Very good, yeah.
August 5th meeting, next month.
Great. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
So it'll be moved to the full board August 5th.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. So this is the disbursement of the Montgomery County Recycling Consortium settlement with JP Mascara. So Paul, you want to give a little background? Or, no, sorry, David, sorry, my bad, David.
Yeah, this, the background is, there's a recycling consortium amongst 7 municipalities, and there's a property off Fitzwatertown Road, which is owned by Upper Dublin Township. It's in Upper Dublin, and it's owned by the consortium. And 2 years back, JP Mascara actually managed the facility for us. That's where we dumped our recyclables. They didn't sort, they loaded it and took it to their own MRF, which it's called. And so during that time, there were damages to the facility. And when they left, after they lost the last contract, the consortium, their committee went through the facility and found damages. So they decided on a $20,000 agreement. They received that check, and what the recycling committee wants to do with that money is just put it in the capital fund for future repairs in case we ever decide to start hauling back to that facility. So our portion is roughly 16%, which would be like $2,700 maybe. So I'm in agreement with it, and we had to bring it to the board for approval.
I'm in agreement.
I'm in agreement. I have a fun little story though. I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, they used to burn trash there. And they stopped doing it. And then there was a proposal to save money, to start burning the trash there again. And the people in Rydell, the people in that area rose up and said, well, why don't we open one in Rydell? And so they decided not to do that. That was a horrible thing at that time.
Any commissioner comments? Okay, so we'll move this to the August 5th regular board meeting. All right, let's move on to old business. Trico Willow Grove LP Land Development, application for the Starbucks Cafe.
Maybe. Do I have to hit something else? I think so, man.
There you go.
Thank you. Good evening. Here representing Trico and the Starbucks proposal. We were here last month and had some additional kind of detailing for landscaping. We went back to the well and really splashed up our landscaping design for the site and were able to mitigate a couple of the waivers we had asked for. Those being previous number 4 regarding existing on-site trees and locating them. We've made sure the plans now show the existing trees. And the previous number 6, where we were asking for relief to use the azaleas, we just used more native species, and we were able to meet the ordinance requirements. So a significant amount of additional landscaping, including a lot of ornamental trees. One of the issues was street trees before, so we were able to meet the street trees just using a slightly smaller species tree. For that, we do need a waiver from street trees because we're not using one of the approved street tree species, but it's a much more appropriate species for the location of all the utilities and the other stuff going on in the frontage of this site already. So in addition to enhancing the landscape plan and minimizing some waivers, we also reached out to and did some coordination with SEPTA regarding the existing bus stop at the front and the county planning's recommendation that we pursue or look into getting a bus shelter. In our meetings with SEPTA, SEPTA doesn't administer bus shelters. We did review the site with SEPTA and found out that they're actually in the course of kind of reevaluating the whole alignment up 611 for bus stops. This bus stop in particular, they said, did have low ridership. They wouldn't comment for certain, but they said sometime later this year, they will be revising what the stops are on this. Regardless, we looked at it and we said that we see an opportunity to add a little bit of concrete sidewalk to bring the stop up to ADA compliance. So that was something that we can do and we're prepared to do. But as far as the shelter, the best recommendation they could give us is to reach out to Clear Channel. We reached out to Clear Channel. Clear Channel said, reach out to your township. And this is what I was a little bit worried about when the subject first came up is somewhat of a kind of runaround about how do you get a shelter. But again, at least we were able to conclude a way to improve the bus stop and provide accessibility. And so that's something that we'll be doing as part of our HOP work related to improving the ramp at this corner. So if there's any other questions or if we want to.
Any commissioner comments? Sure.
There are a number of other issues. Have these been taken care of? Parking islands and storage facilities, draining and all that stuff?
All those waivers are still remaining, and I'm happy to revisit them all if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
We did talk about them last time they were here, and from my recollection, the only objections were to the landscape waivers, and that's kind of why they went back and revised. I'm interested to hear what Cheryl has to say about the new landscape plan.
I spoke with Paul, our Director of Code Enforcement today, and am satisfied that you guys worked with us and made the plan better and appreciate that. I also do want to ask that a condition be, per the Bowman recommendation letter, a condition be that they fix any traffic circulation issues that might come up. Do you
In the parking, internal to the
Yeah,
site?
internal. That was the recommendation in the Bowman review letter.
Yes.
Okay. And I really appreciate you reaching out to SEPTA. I know SEPTA should have good bus stops, but they don't. So I do think it's awesome that Starbucks is willing to help with that. Who knows, maybe some of your employees will use it. It'll be right out front. Okay, and I do have some information from the Montgomery County Planning Commission that might help. I'll forward that to you.
Okay.
So thank you.
I'm very glad that we were able to achieve these objectives, and just took a little bit more thinking, and everybody was willing to do it, so otherwise.
I'm good.
I'm good as well. So we can move this.
Move that forward.
Yeah,
Move
that
for
forward.
action at the full board, August 5th.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you. I'm Al Kroll. I'm one of the owners of the property. We appreciate it.
You bet.
We never experienced a circuitous call like we did with SEPTA, but we're trying.
Well, you know, years ago, they were begging, or asking us to put in bus shelters with advertising on them. And we had a lot of discussion about it.
Right.
Not SEPTA, but some private company.
Right, the Clear Channel.
Clear Channel
They had no
was
interest
doing
in
it, and now they're apparently out of the game.
And SEPTA's reviewing the route. The route will stay, but they're not sure this stop is going to stay. On its best day, it's 10 people. That's it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But we're here.
But they were non-committal. They're like, they were still analyzing the data.
We know a lot about SEPTA.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, our next item on the agenda is the intersection of Davisville and York Roads. So Jim, Pat, you want to take either one of you want to take it?
My recollection is
I'll be happy to
he
take it.
gave a cost estimate and a rendering, and there was concern that it was over the budget amount. So we're back here.
So there's a couple options I think the board or the committee can consider. One is to move forward with the project as is. It's over the budgeted amount. However, there's opportunity through some fee in lieu of funds. Perhaps some of that money can be reallocated towards this project. We would need about $30,000, maybe $35,000 for that. Option two is to delay this project, to consider other funding sources. And option three would be to lessen the scope of the project. And if we did that, we would have to turn it back over to Gilmore to come up with another design that might be acceptable that they can bring forward in September to the board. I think at this point, those are the three options. This was Commissioner McFatridge's, one of his projects that he wanted to get accomplished. Obviously, he's not here this evening. In speaking with him, he wouldn't have any objection to delaying this a couple of more months, and we can make a decision in September as to how we might want to move forward.
Sure. We'll probably delay it till Kip gets back.
Okay, great.
I'm in favor of that.
All right, so we will move down to the monthly reports. Code enforcement.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. The committee has my June 2024 report, and as a comparison, I've included the June 2023 report. I have nothing to add to either one of those, but happy to answer any questions commissioners may have.
I do not have any questions.
No, that's cool. Good.
Thank you. We'll move on to Public Works report. Oh, sorry. Oh, any public comments? There you go. Public comments. There you go.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know, you're all new to this stuff. I just had a question in regard to, I know Dr. Sanders isn't with us this evening either, but there is meadowing going on in the township, and that's where people are allowing their front lawns, back lawns, and any other side of the house to grow naturally, if that is the truth. What impact are we getting from your end, Paul, in terms of people who have 18 inches of grass and they are not meadowing?
Well, regardless of if they're meadowing, that would require, if they're looking to meadow, that would require a waiver from the Board of Commissioners.
A waiver of
A
what?
waiver from the property maintenance requirement. So if the grass is high, and we know about it, they got to notice a violation.
Okay, so if you know about it, how does one know about it? I mean, in the past, if somebody's grass was over 12 inches,
Right.
we would be neighbors and we would knock on the door and say, are you all right? And do you want my son to cut your grass, you know? Now, we don't have those kinds of relationships so much anymore. And while I might be willing to do that, others are not. And so we wind up calling your office and maybe making a lot of empty, Paul, what about this, what about that, you know, kind of housing going on.
We go out, we've been busy the spring and so far this summer with property maintenance complaints. So if you have any specific complaint about a property, I'd ask you to call our office or have any complainant reach out to our office and we will send somebody out.
Right. Would it be a process sensible to have a particular sign from the township saying this is an already designated meadow in some formula? So when people drive by, they're like, fine, okay, good. It's already been looked at. I don't have to make a phone call. They don't have to take a phone call. They don't have to make a report. And they don't have to go out. I kind of think it's 2024 and we have so many changes right now that it's important that we have better processes for things like this. How about that? Is that possible to bring forward as an idea to the commissioners?
What are you suggesting, that?
That people who are meadowing actually have a sign on their property that when people drive by, they know it's a meadow. There's nobody, pardon me?
But they'd have to get a permit.
Well, they would have had to have had a permit, and in that permitting process, they would have had to have some physical, you know, something, piece of paper.
Paul,
And
do we
can we
have
do that?
any where the board has waived that requirement?
No, there was, in my
I
time
haven't
here,
ever seen
one
that.
developer came to the Board of Commissioners. He had a plot of ground that's since been developed. The grass was high. We were continuously sending notice to him. He came before the Board of Commissioners to let the property go to meadow. It was denied, and the grass was cut and brought into compliance with township code before it was developed. So there's your answer.
Well, Dr. Sanders is meadowing her property.
Okay, well, we don't allow anybody to meadow. That'd be the Board of Commissioners' decision.
Does everybody know that?
What's the address? Well, I'm not going to get into
No, not
this
here.
address.
I could certainly
address.
give you that information. That's easy peasy.
If you have a
She's-
complaint,
No, it's not a complaint. In fact, it's just the opposite of a complaint. I would love people to meadow. I'm part of that. I want you to meadow crowd. But on the other hand, I don't want to go by people's houses seeing grass grow and just assume, I guess they're meadowing, they're not meadowing, why can't we just let each other know in a very specific, we're proud of it manner in this township? The same reason I want a permit on a dumpster in a driveway. When I go by, I know that somebody has pulled a permit on that dumpster. Instead, I'm told, well, they have it, but they're not required to put it on the actual dumpster. Like, this would eliminate an awful lot of back and forth and phone calls that aren't needed, and maybe even better neighbor relationships. Can't we do things like that? Is there a resistance here I'm not catching on to?
I don't think there's a resistance. I think the issue is our code, and if people are going to allow to go over the 12 inches or the code, they would have to get a waiver. And then what you're suggesting is they put a sign in their front yard that they want to go to meadow. Part of the problem would be those that just don't want to maintain their property. And
They
let
wouldn't
it
have a
just go.
sign, and then Paul
Well,
would
they
get a
can-
call.
They can come forward and request a sign.
Sure, the request for a permit would come before they got a sign.
it's
Correct.
Okay,
permit.
Right.
It's not a
correct?
permit.
Is that
Not a
correct?
permit. It would be a request of a waiver.
A waiver, I'm
Right.
sorry. Okay.
And I'm just wondering how the monitor of that meadowing may go. So if someone just doesn't maintain their front yard
Right,
with no care to invasives or anything that might be in it.
correct.
So then they would have to come before us and make their case, and we would have to approve whether they were doing the meadow or not.
Correct.
Well,
Yep.
and we haven't had a complaint ever. So, it seems like it's an over-regulation.
To put a sign up in your front yard?
Require-
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for listening. Pardon?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So this is news to me. I remember some time ago when they're talking about an ordinance that would control how high people's grass could get. I asked if this would prevent someone putting in a meadow, and the answer was no. It would not prevent someone from putting in a meadow. So.
I don't know where'd you get that information?
Still, I'd have to get a permit.
I personally asked that at a meeting when they were talking about an ordinance for high grass. And I got up and asked, would that prevent someone from putting in a meadow? And the answer I was given was no, it would not.
I don't know what board meeting.
I don't remember either. It's been some time ago.
I can tell you, it wasn't a board meeting I was at. So I would explain
So I guess
the
I need to
process.
talk to you after this.
Sure, yeah, if somebody wants to let their property go to Meadow, I would suggest they send me a letter requesting that, and we'll get them on this committee. Then they can present their request to the CDC, and they'll either recommend it or not. And if they recommend it, it'll go to the full board.
I spent money on this. I would be unhappy if you guys said I couldn't do it. I had no idea I had to get a waiver, so it's a done deal. It's blooming, look.
Obviously, it doesn't come up very often.
Not at all.
Any other public comments? Okay, we will move on to the engineer's report.
Thank you. My report's in your packets. I don't particularly have anything to add, but would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Let me pull it up.
So,
This is one we always-
yeah, in your report, you had some things highlighted in yellow. What were those?
I don't think in my report, potentially in the landscape architect's
Yes.
portion of that report.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'd say that's probably a formatting.
Okay. Got it. Just, yeah, I was just curious.
Could it be additions in June?
Certainly, maybe.
Okay. I was just curious.
Got it.
I have no questions other than that one.
I'm good.
Okay. We'll move on to the traffic engineering report, engineer's report.
Hello, everybody. Our report's in the packet. Just a few items just wanted to go over with you, just so you're aware. I'll start with Blair Mill Road. That's a project that our office has been working on and been dealing with property owners. We found out that that grant deadline expired. So we're recommending submitting for that grant again, which is due at the end of this month. I guess one of the good things with resubmitting is we can up the amount from the 575 to cover the full cost of the project. Initially, Township submitted for $3 million for improvements there and other places and was only awarded 575. So there was like another 200,000 plus that the Township would bore.
Well, Anton, though, the grant expired
Correct,
June 30th,
correct.
and we're trying to get an extension, right?
We did reach out very, very late in the process to see if we can get an extension. We were told no through one source. We reached out to our senators and congressmen or representatives to see if they can assist us in this process. We've not had any success to this date. So at this point, it looks like that grant, there is no grant extension and the grant has expired. However, what I think Anton is discussing here is reapplying. The deadline would be July 31st and actually applying for more money than the original grant, since the original grant didn't cover the entire cost of the project. So yes, the grant deadline was missed, but there is an opportunity.
So if we got an extension, we actually end up with less money.
Well, we don't know that we'll get a new grant. So if the extension does come through next week, we would be able to spend the original $575,000. And that would, doesn't mean we can't go for an additional grant.
So if we apply on the 31st, when we get that grant?
When will we be notified?
It's been typically like November timeframe. Sometimes it goes into the new year.
Okay, so it's not a big delay. It just depends on one of two things happening.
Right, we need to get the second grant, or we need to get the extension on the original grant. So what I'd like to do, if it's acceptable, is just move this to the regular meeting for the board's consideration to apply for this grant. In the meantime, we can ask Anton to start working on that application since it's due July 31st, and our next meeting will not be until August 5th. However, with this grant, the resolution to apply for the grant can come after the grant application is complete. Okay, Phil, you talked in a little circle there, but yeah.
Approve, agree that we should move it to the board meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I believe Anton has additional information.
Sure. The other project that we've been working on is the Turnpike interchange. Since the last time I've been here, the draft 2025 tip has been advertised on DVRPC's website. This is funding through federal funding and state funding, and the project through the county's support has been put on this draft tip. This month, the DVRPC board will vote on it, and they'll give the region's projects to the state, and hopefully that gets adopted in October. So that means once that gets on the tip, PennDOT will take over costs for final design and construction of the project, and the township's funding, using one of the grant funds to progress the design as far as we can with preliminary engineering. Just wanted to bring your attention, the township did also receive a PennDOT MTF grant for that project for construction. Since it's getting added to the tip, that PennDOT MTF grant money won't go towards that project anymore, so there may be an opportunity to approach PennDOT to use that for other projects. So I think that's some work with Pat to reach out to PennDOT to see if that money's still available. That was a $1.35 million grant.
If I can just, so this gets a little confusing. We have a grant for the design work, which we're spending down now. That's about 1.5 million, something like that. And then we also have a $1.3 million grant for the construction. If PennDOT takes on this project, that $1.3 million grant will not go to this project because PennDOT is going to fund it on their own. And our hope is that we might be able to reallocate some of those funds somewhere else in this township for other projects.
Road projects, right?
Tink you.
Blair Mill Road Bridge,
Right.
for instance.
Correct. The other one is Maryland Road. That one's progressing. That's the one that township received the grant for the construction and inspection. Design's complete, submitting for DEP permitting. Once that DEP permit comes in, we can look to put that out for construction. Warminster Road sidewalk, that project construction was completed. Reimbursement request was submitted to the county for that. So that project's complete. That was the one just wanted to highlight.
Any commissioner comments?
Maryland Road Bridge? I'm sorry, the Maryland Road Bridge?
Yes, sorry. That's the one where we've completed the design of the structure, and we put together the DEP permit that got submitted at the end of June. So just wait for that permit to come in, then that can go to construction or bidding.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Just to make sure he can submit this grant at the end of the month, do we have to have 4 to approve it? Because I approve it. We have 2 there.
We can approve it after the fact.
We can?
We can.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah, they want to just submit the application, and then we can approve it that following Monday, yeah.
Thank you, Anton.
Thanks, Anton. Okay, Environmental Agency Council report.
Public Works gets together. All right. So the saga of installing feather-friendly on the library continues. So we wanted, you did skip Public Works, I think, right?
I'll come back to you. You just don't say anything.
Yeah. All right, so the Outdoor Environmental Education Center we are we're working with the library to try and get that installed over time in the back and the side of the library. And part of that is put in pollinator gardens and bird-friendly plantings. And it seems wrong to do that and then have all that glass there and the birds kill themselves accidentally after eating the insects and the seeds off the flowers. So like I said, we've been trying to get feather-friendly installed. It did buy feather-friendly, but getting it up on those upper arched windows is proving to be quite an ordeal. So we thought we had hired someone, and I thought he had more equipment than he did. He had a ladder, so that's not gonna work. So if you know of somewhere where we can get a lift, that would be awesome. Just, Dave, you know any place we can get one?
I was getting a lift, I'd have to go to a
Okay, do you know which one?
The township doesn't have, they have a bucket truck.
United? Okay.
They Maple Avenue on Horsham.
Oh, okay. All right.
How about the people who do our street lighting?
That's all,
van.
yeah, it's outside equipment. A bucket truck would be outside. These are going to be inside the library.
No, it's outside.
Okay.
It has to be on the outside of the
Oh, I'm sorry.
windows.
We can take a look and I'll get back to you later.
Okay,
I mean, maybe we could pay for that.
all right. Also, in relation to the Outdoor Environmental Education Center, getting estimates for presentation stage and gardens, and that's in the process of being obtained. Would like to get 3 estimates. We are also in the process of designing a second sign for Pelleggi Park that would talk about plants that people could put in their own yards. And we did also add some deer fencing around some of the plants that were getting really chewed on over there in the wet meadow. And we're also investigating how we'd like to have some of the trees in our parks labeled like with what they are. And so we were kind of looking into a good way to do that. And you guys might already know that.
I'm sorry, I missed a little bit of what you said in the beginning. Have you talked to Kate at all in the Shade Tree Commission? Because I think they're working on some of that.
Okay, I'll ask her. It's just something we discussed in the EAC meeting. Okay. Let's see. Also, we wondered if any progress has been made on planting trees. At one point, we talked about the dog park on the, I don't know which direction it is, but on the side of the small dog area and that kind of makeshift pathway. Talked about putting trees there at one point. I wonder if there's any progress on that.
There's been none, but again, I would address that with Kate. There's been some disruptions in the office over the last few months.
Yeah.
So I don't think it went anywhere. But the
Okay.
fall would be a great time to take a look at that. Before Jim Murphy, the parks foreman, left, one of the issues we had was getting trees back there with equipment. 'Cause there's not a real space to get through, but certainly please speak with Kate and I'll talk to her as well.
Okay.
But I think it's something we can revisit in the fall.
Okay. And also wondered how Fair Oaks was doing. At one point, we talked about really putting in a lot of bird habitat around the basin and in the park in general, and just wondered how Fair Oaks is doing. It's still a lot of sediment and debris going into that basin?
It's actually grown in quite well. There's 3 bays in that basin. The first bay catches most of the sediment.
Okay.
And we clean that out. I want to say we probably annually, but it might be every other year or bays 2 and 3 are full and robust. And there's
Okay.
a lot of wildlife that's in there.
Okay.
I can't say that all the plants that are in there are native.
Yeah.
But it's also doing, after a couple of years of tinkering with it, it's doing the job it's supposed to be doing with the water. So it's working out well.
Okay, good. Would it be appropriate to add some bird habitat at this point?
Certainly something to consider, yes.
Okay. And let's see. Also, a number of members noticed a lot of plastic water bottles in the trash at Mason's Mill pickleball courts and tennis courts. I wondered if there's any way we could do some recycling?
So what has happened in the past at Mason's Mill Park is we had a number of recycling containers out there. Folks throw trash in it, and then our workers were going through and trying to pick out the trash and the recycling, and we're not going to ask our workers to do that for sanitary reasons. So it hasn't, and we've tried it multiple times over different years, and it has not worked out.
Yeah.
It would be wonderful, and perhaps even when we buy the correct containers where you can only fit a bot, folks aren't using it for that purpose, and it's very difficult for us to monitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But certainly open any suggestions.
And then, even though the police station isn't happening anytime soon, wondered if we could look into putting solar on this building and on the library while the 30% credit is available?
That's a board's discussion point.
It's all possible.
Yeah, it's something we can discuss.
It's all up in the air right
Well, like I said, I know the police station is, but I'm at this building and the library, because I mean, it'd be a shame to miss a 30% credit.
now. Right. We need the 70%. But we've been talking about it. A number of commissioners beside myself are all in favor of that, but it's still too early to really make a decision.
I think there's some continued discussions the board is going to have about what will happen with this building. Those discussions may happen later this fall. I think it would be wise to continue to consider solar opportunities or green energies, but not as the current building is shaped, because things might change. So I think we'd have to wait until the fall when we decide, if we decide what we're going to do before we can move forward. We might miss out on a percentage credit there.
Okay. And the last item was talked about a number of years ago, that somehow the EAC get involved earlier in design plans for buildings instead of after the fact. Is that at all possible?
Well, I think that that'd be something for a board to consider when they would want to involve an advisory council. I don't know that in the past advisory councils jumped in at the early stages. That might be, well, it's something the board can consider. It might be a task that is not part of the EAC's charge. I'd have to go back and review what this EAC's mission is and how they're going to accomplish that, but certainly something we can look at.
But you're always allowed to comment
Absolutely.
at land development.
I think the question is, Lynette is saying maybe get a seat at a table much earlier in the process to make comments prior to instead of after.
Yeah. And that's it. Any questions?
Any commissioner comments?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll go back to Public Works report. Sorry, Dave.
I'm going to make it quick. You have my report for June, in your packets, for Public Works and sanitation, recycling. I have nothing further to add, but we'll gladly answer any questions.
I do not have anything. Any commissioner comments? Okay. Thanks, Dave. And Historical Commission report.
Hi, Commissioners. Sue Worth-Manor for the Historical Commission. I'm going to do what everyone loves to do. You have my report in front of you. You've read it. You have any questions for me? I just wanted to say, since Dave went before me, I'm going to start with number 4. We thank the Public Works Department for moving the sign at Park in Easton. It's Memorial Hall, but it was unreadable. It was sitting in the weeds, and it's now, I assume, Dave, in storage with you all, and we will bring it back out. Is there anything that you can tell us as the commission about the status of that property? I did complain to Mr. Patel's office about the way it looked, and I guess it was like maybe 48 hours too late or something, somebody had come by and done a little bit of work, but it always gets to the end of anybody's tether before either you do the work, we do the work and charge them, or do they come around and do the work because you're telling them they must?
We do have a contractor that will go out and clean a property up if the property owner fails to do so, but mostly with vacant properties and neglected commercial properties. So we did clean that up earlier in the spring. And what we do is we turn around and we just put a lien on the property.
Okay. So they're not taking care of their own property, whoever they are at this point. I'm not following that, the bouncing ball any longer. You know, I'm told that maybe he is not capable of doing that yet. But be that as it may, thank you, Dave, for getting that out of the weeds. So we're not replacing it. That is the point of all of these signs. We're not replacing it too fast because we don't even know the status of the property. It might go some other place. But Mr. Elsier, what is the status of the two other signs that are to go up in the across the street area that you and I talked about 2 months ago when we took a walk? Are they willing to have them put up sooner rather than later? Or are we waiting upon the rising of the apartment complex?
We're waiting for more of the construction. Paul, that's the sign that's going right at the, what is it, the Apple Drive sign?
Yeah.
Right there on the other side, across from my record.
Oh, gotcha, good. And we do have one that's going to go the entrance
Right, Willow Grove Park sign, which is going to go further down.
Right next to the
Amazon.
store.
Correct.
Or the-
So we have two signs to install.
We just have to get
Okay.
Yeah, they were still doing work by the Amazon, I guess in the, well,
Whatever you want to call
past
it.
3 years, past 4 years or so.
Yeah.
But they had to move, do some work with their current entrance, so that's why we didn't put that up.
Okay. Well, we only, I'm sorry, Dave.
still have two more signs that need to be created, correct? Hold on.
The red lion in the top of it, that you, thank you, you took it off. And that's still, it needs to be done. And the fountain house is out at the wedge section of the apartment complex, Station Apartments. And that's going to be removed also. You don't have to run to do it, obviously, but that will be replaced by us this budget year. That's that. So, and then 2025, we'll figure out what's next. Possibly we'll do the one for Memorial Park. But the point is that we're working with the Peter Wentz Farmhouse to do this audio QR coding and audio tour. So part of our work is to also divide up all those signs, which is 12 at the moment, and have them, the early part, the colonial part, the development of the township, which would start from the Mother Lode, which is the manor house here at the corner, and then would go through that 1800s. And then the remaining ones, like the Willow Grove Park, the Memorial Hall, they're later. So we want to kind of put that as far to bed as we can, obviously for 2026 and the birthday of the United States. New homes on the inventory, that's our hottest thing right now. And we are working with people, and we are, again, processes that look good 15 years ago, 10 years ago. You know, the paperwork isn't necessary. We have digital capabilities that we need to use more of, I think. And we will be working in that direction. So we won't be killing trees and making books for people and that sort of thing. It's great to have a few pictures, obviously, of what we once did, but we're working on, give us some time, we're working on new processes so that people can, you know, fill out forms more easily and become part of this process. But Bueller Park has been there for years, thank you. And the owners of the house across the street are very excited to be on the historical inventory, whereas we didn't have that excitement from former owners. So we're looking at that one in particular, and two on Turwood Road. And again, one more time for everybody who has a book like I do and knows what they're going to be doing next year already, October 27th. Farmstead Park, which I do see is a typo. I apologize on that. And it's spearheaded by Jackie Sherapinski, our favorite scary actress who loves to do those things. So we'll be ready for that when that comes up. But yeah, do put it on your calendar so we don't have to, consider what are we doing in October. We're going to do Pumpkins on Parade and historical haunts. Yay, Upper Moreland, right? So anybody have any questions or anything you'd like me to be bringing up and moving forward before I ask you which commissioner is going to sit on the historical commission under our ordinance? Last question from the commission, because we're in violation of our own ordinance. You are?
Just wanted to say that's a good question, and we do need to address that. We'll talk about it. Sorry for the delay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
So any visitor comments? Do you have any visitors? Okay. All right, so the other topic is consider the cancellation of our August 12th meeting. I'm in favor. All right. So we will cancel our CDC meeting in August. Okay. Any commissioner comments? Okay, then we adjourn.